Lisa Bennett here, Workforce Millionaire, and we are at the Loving Nonprofit Awareness Day, and I have the opportunity to interview Erica Donnelly-Greenan. She is the Save Our Shores Executive Director, and Save Our Shores is a big organization in this area. Save Our Shores, well, it says, is a small grassroots nonprofit organization focused on marine conservation in Santa Cruz, California. Founded in 1978 in response to the threat of offshore oil drilling along the Central Coast, and integral in the designated status of the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. Since then, they've worked to protect our coastline from other threats, including plastic pollution and illegal sand mining. Wow, we got to talk about that. Our efforts have expanded since our inception to include delivering marine science education to local students, engaging community members in stewardship activities, conducting outreach for pollution mitigation, and continuing the invaluable advocacy work upon which our organization was founded by pushing for policies that protect oceans, coastlines, and connected communities. Erica, welcome.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for the opportunity.
Well, I appreciate you showing up. And you are the second person I've interviewed today who is snowed in the Tahoe area somewhere. And I'm glad you all have power, because that's the first thing that goes out here. So
exactly.
Let's talk about, how did you become the director of Save Our Shores?
Sure. Yeah, I'm a new executive director. So I joined Save Our Shores on September 13th of this year. And so I'm pretty green. So I'm pretty excited for this opportunity to join in my local community. I've been in Santa Cruz since 2004 with my husband and our pets. And so to get to this position and in this point, actually my background is mostly in marine scientific research. And so that's where I started at Moss Landing Marine Laboratories.
Oh, yeah.
And through that, so I went through that graduate program under the guidance of Dr. James Harvey, and spent a lot of time focusing on marine vertebrate ecology with a focus on seabird plastic ingestion. And then later on, I did a little bit of work in marine mammal entanglement as well. And through that schooling and that opportunity, I got involved with citizen science program, the Beachcombers program, which brings together community members who learn how to take data and from all walks of life. So you don't have to be a scientist. And that really sparked my interest in getting community members involved in what's going on. Not just listening to, oh yeah, scientists are saying this, it's actually hands-on, getting out there, seeing how it applies, and then implementing it in their lives and also in all our communities' lives, so we really can make that big picture connection happen. And then from there, I did a little bit of outreach consulting and some people management, and the goal is to bring all that skill set, hopefully, that I've created over the years together in this director position, and hope to energize the nonprofit and move it forward as we get into 2022.
Yeah, the way that I have contributed to your nonprofit is like beach cleanup day. It happens a couple times a year, doesn't it? And family, individuals, and there's always a work group leader, and we go out in a pack of people and we clean up for hours, and we bring all the stuff and they weigh it. And at the end, I think there's some number of how many pounds have been gleaned from the shores that keep the shores clean, and hopefully also out of the animals that could ingest it. And that was a big deal a few years ago. Is that still going on right now?
Oh, absolutely. That's a mainstay at Save Our Shores. I mean, we would love for it to be something that goes by the wayside, that we no longer need beach cleanups or river cleanups. Right. So that's the overarching goal, right? Is to do the bigger picture work where we don't no longer need those aspects of cleanups, but we still need them right now. And so, we use them as a way to not only just clean up the shoreline, the river, make sure that we're making sure that we pick up whatever we can before it hits the water. But it also is a way to connect people to the problem, right? And so it's really getting community members, like you said, family members, everyone out there to see, when you see it firsthand, and I think you take ownership of when you're out there and you're going, oh, this is a problem. And then you start to think of, well, what other ways can I what other things can I do in my daily life that hopefully will help mitigate this problem?
Yeah.
And so that's our goal, is to really use that as a stepping stone, right? To connect people to that issue. And then hopefully we can just kind of snowball the efforts together as communities and bring it up to the policy level so that we can make some big scale changes. And so, yeah, those cleanups are still happening all the time. And we're always happy to connect people that are interested in coming down and helping us keep the beaches and the riverbanks clean.
Yeah, it's a fun way to spend a morning. And I have a question for you. I am a baby boomer. And when I was young, there was a program called Don't Be a Litter Bug, and the signs were everywhere. Don't be a litter bug signs were everywhere. And my mom really grilled it into us. You do not drop stuff on the ground. And I have made my kids actually go back to a table at a restaurant if they even left a piece of paper there and make sure that they get it in the trash. But it doesn't feel to me that the current generation has the don't be a litter bug like in their heads the way that we did when I was young.
Yeah, I would say it's kind of a mixed bag out there, right? We have young people that are incredibly in tune with what's going on, especially with the ecosystem and climate change and the connection with ocean and climate change. And then there's the other aspect, right, of maybe some families or kids that didn't grow up with that aspect of how it's connected, how leaving your trash somewhere or not cleaning up after yourself really impacts not just the next people that use that area, but it's also a human health aspect. So, we throw a cigarette on the beach, we think it's just paper, but it's not. It has plastic component to it. It has toxins from the tobacco, and now it's out there exposed. It can get in the water and leach out chemicals. It can get into our groundwater. It can impact wildlife. It can impact children. And so it's really just, I think, getting that big picture thinking in people's minds that, and that's always my goal, is how are we all connected? How does this impact all of us? Because it all does. We're all living in these ecosystems together. And that's really the goal, I think, is to get people to see that we're not all living separately and everything we do impacts something else, right? And so, I like that whole don't be a litter bug aspect. And I'm hoping we can inspire not just these up and coming generations, but also all generations, right? And really get them to see that this is important for their communities, for their families as well.
Well, we can really see the impact in the oceans these days. I mean, all the horrific pictures of all the plastics floating in the ocean. And even back years ago, I don't know how many years ago now, when I was on a study abroad program to Costa Rica, and we went to the banana plantations where a couple of things were going on, Erica. There was a big expose while I was there that what happened was in the US, they had banned paraquat. So there are no international laws about exporting any kind of chemicals. So we exported the paraquat to Costa Rica. The Costa Ricans sprayed it on their bananas. The bananas go through this water bath after they get cut off the plants. They go through this water bath and the blue bags get put on them and they get sent into the trucks. I believe that's the way it goes. Well, it turns out all these people, and they tended to be men, who've had their hands in this water and pushing the bananas along in the paraquat water, they had just found out they were all sterile. All the men were sterile. Mm. And there were men crying on the news channel at that time. I remember they had just discovered they can't have families. And this circle of poison that we were engaging in, it seemed completely unethical to me. Like, how could there not be laws against this? And then, of course, I'm sure you're familiar with the blue bags. So the blue bags inflate when they hit the water, and it looks like a jellyfish, and the giant tortoises eat them because it looks like a jellyfish. And then the tortoises die of intestinal jamming, whatever you want to call it, from having a blue bag inside them. So I know they've been working on solving the blue bag problem, and I don't know how they've done it, but they did finally recognize that, and it was killing the tortoises. But turtles, giant sea turtles, yeah.
Sea turtles.
Sea turtles, yeah.
No, and you just highlighted a fantastic point, right? That, if we ban something somewhere and then we push it somewhere else, it still has the overall environmental impact or some other communities dealing with that problem. And it's really, we need to start looking at this as more of a one health, a one ecosystem. We're all in it together. And so I think we really need that organization of, it shouldn't be out of sight, out of mind, right? We shouldn't push that on other communities. And so you really highlighted a good point that We just need some big change and start thinking globally in terms of how we deal with ecosystem issues instead of just little tiny local. You want to act locally and then hope that it amplifies out, but keeping in mind that if you're saving only your little local community and then pushing out chemicals in a different community, well,
Right.
is that really the impact that you want to have?
Right.
It's definitely, impact is so important. And so, yeah, you highlighted a really good example of that.
And another thing that I've noticed in the last, I think it's 20 years, maybe less, is the people walk around with cups with lids on them. I mean, people walk around with these quote unquote disposable things as if that doesn't go somewhere. And there's millions of them. When I was a kid, that actually wasn't available. You went to a coffee shop, you got coffee in a mug, and then they washed the mug. There wasn't millions of these paper and plastic things running around the world in people's hands, and then they dispose of them. Like this whole thing. Okay, so I live on the mountain in the Santa Cruz Mountains. There's no such thing as away here. You don't throw anything away. So it becomes compost, or I get to recycle it, or there is a certain amount that goes into the landfill. But I certainly, as someone who lives on a mountain, I know where my water comes from and I know where my trash goes to. And I think that has disappeared a lot from the mentality of Americans who think they can throw something away.
Yes, you're so right. And so you've got that mindset of knowing that it all goes somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard because we kind of created this disposable society, I think, in the past couple of generations. With the invention of plastics, which we need in some aspects, but now we've gone, I think, to the extreme where we've made everything disposable. Like you're saying, and now we don't think about it, right? And a lot of it is marketed to us in our economy that way of throw it away, single use, it's all convenient, it's all good. But then, like you're saying, well, where does it really go? And so now there's this big movement, I think, to move back away from that, to get back into reusables of, how do we make it where it's still convenient for life as we know it now, modern life, but where we're not creating more garbage. So one aspect that we're looking into at Save Our Shores too is to start bringing in some of those reusable companies that are coming out of the city that are offering utensils and metal cups to restaurants and eateries. And so that way we're cutting down on so much disposable waste that, a lot of us just don't think about because it's so ingrained in our daily lives, and people are busy and they're trying to make ends meet and they're trying to raise kids. And a lot of people really can't think about all these aspects of like, well, I'm going to go refill my bottle today, or I'm going to buy this reusable shampoo bottle and refill it every time. And some of us can do that, but I think we really need to start pushing at the kind of at the top level of who's marketing what to us, and how do we start demanding that we want reusables, we want things that are eco-friendly in a real way, that aren't greenwashed, right? That aren't saying compostable and then are only compostable in a industrial facility that a lot of our communities don't have.
Yeah.
And so you're so right. It's putting that in our minds that nothing truly gets thrown away. And then how do we move on from that, right? How do we get back to reusables in a way that works in our modern life? I'm pretty optimistic that we're pushing in that direction. I'm seeing a lot of good movement, but we got to keep pushing. It's got to be getting people the information, getting them the options, and making it easy for people.
Yes,
I think when you start you start taking down those barriers, I think people will really start making those choices that are good for them and also good for the environment. So that's important.
Well, so let's talk a little bit about plastic straws. So what happened in Santa Cruz County that got us to a place where we don't have plastic straws? Like, what initiated it? And like, did it have to be a measure? What did we all go through to get to the restriction on plastic straws?
Ooh. Yeah, that's a good question. I have to say that's a little bit outside of my realm of knowing exactly all the steps that were taken. At that point, I was more on the research end, but I know that there's a great nonprofit called The Last Straw with Jackie. And so I know she was at the forefront of pushing that in Santa Cruz, of making sure that we have these straws that get one use and they're done, right? And so do we really need them? And just kind of getting the community thinking about that. Well, and if we do need straws, great, then there's probably better options that, those paper ones, or, you hear a lot of complaints about how they kind of fall apart.
Yeah.
But But I think the good part there is at least it got people thinking, right? Of like these things that we use on a daily basis of, do we need them, number one? And if we do, what's an alternative that will be less, environmentally impactful?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, Jackie would be a great one. Sorry, that's a little bit outside of my
Glass
realm of.
straw. I will look it up. I didn't know about that. I thought the plastic straws, other than the fact that it just takes forever to decompose, I thought they were hurting some animal form somewhere.
Yeah, there was a pretty popular video that went around, of I can't recall if it was a marine scientist or a veterinarian that had removed a plastic straw from a sea turtle's nostril, so it had gotten lodged. And so, I think that really sparked an interest of, oh, this is a problem. This is not just we're just creating waste, but now we're also impacting other species as well.
I see.
And it's like, as scientists, we can keep saying that these things are happening, but I think when people see it, they see the video, they see the impact, that's when it really hits home that, oh man, we really need to start thinking about what we're putting out there. And so I think that's what really sparked the banning the straw movement.
Huh.
And Save Our Shores did a little bit more of the banning the plastic bag in Santa Cruz area. I want to say that was, I'm hoping I'm getting my date right, but maybe back in 2014.
Huh.
And so it's really just all these little things coming together, right? So the more we start thinking about it and putting two and two together, I think those small movements, I think, start to create a bigger, better impact overall.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the love in your organization and the love you see from the community. So you haven't been there very long.
Yeah.
September, this is quite a time to get a new job here. So since September, when you became the director, what kind of love have you seen around Save Our Shores and love going out to the community?
Yeah, it has such a strong root, Save Our Shores does in the community, because it's been around such a long time. And I love that it's that grassroots action, right? So it's a big, impactful nonprofit, but with a small little grassroots organization. And so the love is pretty deep in Santa Cruz and in Monterey and kind of in the connected communities as well, because it really just sprung up from some people wanting to take action and making sure that there wasn't going to be oil drilling on our Central Coast. And so in order to make that happen, it's just getting really passionate people that, have their knowledge bases, bringing that expertise together, making things happen. And I still see that today. When I joined, I was shocked at just the level of reach that Save Our Shores has, even though we're tiny. I think sometimes there's this thought that it's this big organization. Right now, there's 5 of us, and
Really?
it's pretty.
I did assume it was a large organization. I assumed you were one of the largest that I was going to be talking to today, because it seems like you have a very wide reach.
Yeah, I think that's a compliment, right? That the fact that a little small group can have such a good reach, I think is something that, my predecessors have, really set foot. I have to step into some big shoes is what I'm trying to say. They've really created this organization that has a broad reach in education and advocacy and in communities getting together and taking action. And so there's so much love from the community because they connect in some way, right? Like either someone will come up to you and say, oh, my kid had a class with Save Our Shores and learned about, the marine protected areas, or you took them out on a field trip. And then you'll talk to someone else, such as like you had mentioned, Lisa, your family or your friends had gone out to a beach cleanup. Yeah. And there's that advocacy where people really get connected of, they're really fired up about banning plastic bags or banning plastic bottles. And so I think because we have our hands in a few different things, we're able to reach people at different levels based on what's important to them and what's important to their families and their communities. And to me, that's so powerful. Like I can feel that love and that energy of let's come together. And that's something that, I really want to help push forward is like, let's all come together with this energy and do something about it, because that's really the only way we're going to see change is through communities and organizations too, coming together. There's so many great nonprofits doing work in these areas. And how can we, instead of spinning our wheels separately, how can we come together and start putting our resources together and really make a big difference? And so to me, it's just a big old love fest. And so how do we take that love fest and move it into impactful action? So right. I love it.
I do think of groups when I think of Save Our Shores. I think of multiple people doing things at once. What do you have in your plan for 2022, which is coming up in a few days? What's on your calendar?
Oh, I know. Yeah. So, as you can imagine, just like all the other nonprofits, we're definitely trying to dig ourselves back up and rebuild a bit. Dealing with the impacts of the global pandemic has been, a thing, and I don't want to glaze over that like it hasn't. And so we're really trying to build back up our finances, build up our programs back up. A lot of our educational programs had to go virtual over the past couple of years. And so now we're in this hybrid mode of being able to come into some schools and get kids back out on the beaches as well. But, that's going to ebb and flow a little bit as we deal with the ongoing situation with COVID.
Yeah.
And so we're just trying to, roll with it and plan as much as we can. We're definitely going to be offering more ways to connect with beach cleanups and hopefully offer steps as to how you can get engaged further to help people really connect to the issues at hand. We're taking some time to look at our mission and see, what we really want to focus on moving forward based on the bandwidth that we have with the number of staff members and the resources. We love having our hands kind of in everything, but I think we're kind of at a point right now where we have to kind of pull in, regroup. What's our main mission? What's our heart? And how do we get people back involved with us? And so that's another part of January is regrouping our volunteer base. We've got an amazing volunteer base, but some have scattered with the pandemic, some have moved, some are dealing with other, life issues. And so we're doing a refresher course for our current volunteers and then offering a new stewardship volunteer course for people that want to join us in February. And so that'll be coming up as well. And so there's so much going on, there's a lot of action and a lot of planning with all the intention of hopefully getting back out in the community and seeing each other in person. That's what we're really aiming for.
Yeah.
So lots to do.
It's feel like an in-person group, although you could do a lot of education online. And I love seeing the snowflakes come down behind you. I haven't seen snow in so long. And I'm thinking, what's the white stuff on her screen?
Oh, Lisa, there's I think we've gotten about 3 feet of snow. There's so much snow.
Wow. Yes, the woman I just interviewed before it was Janice from the Friends of the Library. They had 5 feet, and I said, "Can you get out the door?" She said, "No, actually, right now we can't get out the door." So it's a serious snow happening there. Well,
it is serious.
Thank you for joining us from where you are in snow country, and you have a lot of enthusiasm about your new position as director for Save Our Shores. And you are on the free handout that I've given everyone who is on my email list and everyone who comes to the event. And so they know to contact you to donate or to volunteer.
Yes, please. And please, take a moment to check out our new virtual reality education program. I wanted to make sure that everyone knew that was happening. So cool. There's information on our website.
Okay.
But Lisa, thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm so grateful that you put this together, and I hope to see you out in the community and at a Save Our Shores event.
Yes, I'd love to go clean up shores again. That was totally fun. Yes.
Woohoo.
Thank you, Erica. I appreciate you. Thank you
so much. Thank you.